Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be working on the intercooler setup. As you've seen in other videos, my intercooler is already mounted. It's got the fittings in the top for the water lines, the 3/4 inch fittings. So now I'm going to see about getting this tank mounted up. I found a good spot in the back of the car, plenty of room, since the only thing back there is the battery box, so this has plenty of room. I did show this in my other video, but essentially this is a 5-gallon fuel cell that I managed to pick up for $60 online. It was a lot cheaper to buy a fuel cell than to buy an intercooler tank, which is essentially the same thing, an aluminum tank that holds liquid. It was actually a $90 difference from what I found online, so I was more than happy to keep $90 in my pocket. It comes with this very nice cap that drops in right here. Just turn it, flip this down, and it's locked in place. And you turn it back, lift up, we're out. So very easy to open. Although the opening isn't gigantic, it's big enough that I can dump ice in there. It did come with a fuel level sending unit, which seems to be of decent quality if you're planning on using this for an actual fuel cell. I might incorporate some of this because now I have to plug up this opening back here. Obviously these are a little bit easier than filling that big hole, but it's not going to be that big of an issue regardless. I'll find something, even if it means just putting a plate down with some silicone on it and then running some bolts through it, because I should be able to, well, I can almost get my hand in here, but if I can't, I know my wife has much smaller hands. She'll be able to get her hands in there to hold a nut in place while I tighten down a bolt from above, but that's neither here nor there. I'll worry about that later. The only other modification besides taking the fuel level sending unit out that I did is I went and drilled out the AN lines. This looks like, you can see this is a 10 AN, and this is what it looks like after I drilled it out. I'll clean this up a little bit, but essentially it's much more better flow. It's not going to be a restriction. And this will more closely match the size of the hose, and in fact the hose that I'm going to use is going to fit over this perfectly. So then I'll just slide the hose on, put a hose clamp on it, and we're done. So came with this guy's going to go right here because I don't want the returning line going back into the same area as the feed line, because then I just have hot water going in here while I'm trying to get cold water out here. It's going to mix right, and I don't want to deal with that. So basically, this side is capped off. This is going to feed the the water pump. The return line is going to get plumbed back up here, and this other vent is capped off so that I don't have to worry about spills or anything like that. So ice cold water will come out here, and after it returns from the intercooler, it'll go back in here. And before that water can ever mix with the cold water going out, it's going to have to pass all the way through this tank that's going to be full of ice water. So it'll be ice cold long before it ever has a chance of warming up the water that's going out. So the only issue with buying a fuel cell that I've found so far is that it has this sump on it, as I mentioned in another video. So as you can see, the mounting points don't touch the ground. So what I'm going to do is, I got this aluminum with a few bucks at Home Depot. So what I'm basically going to do is I'll cut it, measure it, and the tank's actually going to sit slightly up on legs. I have nice big bolts to hold it in place. I'm not worried about it moving around. It's not going to be that heavy. Plus it's also going to be sitting down on the sump. So not only will the sump hold some of the weight, the bolts were really just there for stabilization. So I'm going to go ahead and take some measurements, mark up that piece of aluminum tube, and then I'll get the legs basically made, cut up, and then I can go to the car and mark where I have to drill. I will have to make a cut. I have to cut those nitrous brackets out of the car, but once they're out of the way, the tank can go in. So that should be quick and easy. Alright, thanks to a little help from my wife, I was able to get this water tank bolted down. I had to make little spacer legs as I said I was going to do because of that sump in the tank. The water pump, which I'm going to test here in a second, is going to sit pretty much like this. This is actually the nitrous bracket I cut up. So I'm actually going to probably just tack weld that in place unless I decide to pop rivet it. I can't bolt it because I can't get access to it because from below, because it's directly on top of the fuel tank or fuel cell, which is right underneath it. So it's going to sit here. I'll be able to just draw in water from the outlet of the tank. Then this hose will run up to the front of the car, and then obviously when it comes back, it'll go right there. The tank is nice and solid. I mean, I can shake the entire car holding on to this. I mean, you can tell the water is shaking pretty good. I'm shaking the hell out of it. The whole car is moving based off of me just grabbing on this tank. So that works out real good. I'm happy with that. I still need to figure out a way to plug this off, but it's not going to be that difficult. I have a few ideas. It's just a matter of getting around to doing it. So I'm going to cap this off after I test it. If everything works good by just Mickey Mousing the wires together, then I'll actually start the mounting process and the wiring process. But once it finally is wired up, this is the wire that's going to do it. I know that glare from the sun is messing with me. But this is the actual wire that will power the pump. It's already connected to my relay panel down there. And the switch right there in the center, see if I zoom in, is already wired up. It's going to be a third switch from the front. That's just how I have it. But basically I'll flip that on. It'll turn on this pump. And it'll pump the ice water around. So let's go ahead and kind of Mickey Mouse it together so I can test it. And then, like I said, if it tests good, then we'll bolt it all down. Oops, now I'm making a mess. Good morning, guys. It's a new day. It's an early day. It's about 5:45 in the morning. Sun hasn't even come up yet. The weather's great. I got a road trip planned for the next few days, so I will not be able to work on the car on my normal days. And if I don't want to wait in another week to get my hands on it, I have to start early today. So at least today's project is minor. I should be able to knock it out in about an hour's time, hopefully, because I probably won't even get that much time today to work on the car. But basically the goal is to finish getting this tank all hooked up. I'd love to leave town today with this thing full of water. My new hose came in. This is it right here. Hopefully you can see it. I know it's dark in here. This is an old flimsy hose. And the problem with this stuff is that, you know, it bends and then kinks pretty much effortlessly. Whereas the new hose, this stuff is not, I mean, you can bend the hell out of it. It takes some effort and it still doesn't want to kink. So that's the new stuff. It finally came. Obviously don't trust eBay shipping when it says guaranteed by the 16th and it comes a week late. Otherwise this would already be done. So really the only fabrication part of today is that this pump right here, I'm pretty sure it's too dark to see anything. Let me get a flashlight. This pump right here needs to be attached to something. Right now it's just sitting there. Technically I don't even have to. I could just run the lines, fill it with water, and then push it out of the way when it comes time to tack it in place. But I'd rather just get it tacked down now. I would prefer to run bolts because this metal is super thin, but unfortunately the fuel tank comes out to about here. So there's really no way for me to get my hands on top of the fuel tank. It's right underneath that surface. So bolts aren't giving me an option. I'm just gonna have to tack weld it. But it's not really under any type of huge load or anything like that, so it's not going to take much welding to hold it in place. And then this bracket that it's actually sitting on is the old nitrous bracket that I said I was going to have to cut off. I basically rebent the metal, ran a hose clamp through it, and there you go. Water pump mount. Worked great. So the other thing I wanted to just point out real quick is that the rear end is still not in the car. I'm waiting for that bracket that I mentioned in my last video. I did get the lower control arms bolted up, but the uppers, as you can see, the plate is still sitting there. I was able to, oh, it's under the car. I was able to modify the incorrect bracket they had sent me, which is sitting down there. You see it. I modified it so that it can be used. I can't really do it by myself. I have a friend coming over in a couple days who will help me install it, like he helped me install the other side. Once that bracket's in place, then I can bolt the rear end back in, bleed the brakes, and go for a test drive. Because technically I don't need the intercooler for just a test drive. I'm not going to go beat on it the first chance I get. The first test drive will be nice, easy drive. Other progress that has been made is the body. Got the Zeus fittings attached. Unfortunately had a little mistakes here. Didn't make those mistakes everywhere, but it was a learning process since I've never used Zeus fittings before. So those are installed. Got these really nice lynch pins from Home Depot. I couldn't find actual hood pins at an affordable price, and I didn't feel like dealing with shipping. These things were $1.30. If you need hood pins in a pinch, lynch pins from Home Depot, super cheap, work great. Just flip it over and pull it out. So that's awesome. Headlights are on order. They're scheduled for delivery today. Unfortunately, I will not be here by the time they come, but my brother-in-law will be watching the house while we're gone, so he can just collect the package for me, and then I'll get it when I come back into town. The other thing I have to do as far as the front end is concerned is this lip up here is way too thick. The tire will go inward as the suspension compresses, which is good. I know it looks like it's sticking way out right now, because it is. It will tuck in when the suspension compresses, but that lip still needs to go. I did crank the suspension up just a little bit, so I shouldn't have any clearance issues, but like I said, that lip still needs to go. I'm excited to see it on the ground, hopefully here in the next week or so, but the goal is a week from this Friday, which would be 9 days from now. I'm hoping to be driving it, so let's go ahead and get started on this intercooler, and I will stop rambling about my hopes and dreams of driving the car in the next week. So I'm fairly certain on how I'm going to route this, but one of those things is play it by ear. Let's see if I can get a cleaner setup. Let's take a look. I did buy some mounts, so I will be able to actually attach this to the chassis so that I won't have it just flopping around. It's the last thing I need. It's a hose full of water banging around loose in the car. Yes, I was using a sledgehammer to work on my car. Get that out of the way. So let's throw the hose there. I'll probably just run this straight to the pump. Like I said, I had some mounts. This will probably run along here. Probably have to tuck that down a little bit just to get it away from the bump box, which I have another video on how to make this. It's basically just like the Davis bump box, or the, I don't know what they call it, the creep box or whatever that Boost Leash makes, where they charge hundreds of dollars. I made the exact same thing for 10 bucks worth of parts. So I have a video which I will put a link to that in the description on how to make that in case you're interested. kind of looks like hell just sitting there because this is my prototype, the one I just threw together, and since it worked flawlessly, I saw no reason to redo it and make it look nicer. So unfortunately it's not great looking, but it gets the job done. That's all I care about. Okay, so this is how it's gonna look. Well, that's not how it's gonna look. I'm gonna adjust it, but this is essentially the routing path, just straight back. Like I said, I will have it attached to the body. It won't just be loose like that. And it'll actually look fairly decent once it's attached. So I'm going to go ahead and cut the hose right here at the pump. In theory, I would actually be able to start putting water in it. I do have to rig up a ball valve for this, which I have already. It's sitting on the shelf. I'll grab that in a minute. But let me go ahead and cut this hose and get it connected. Alright, so off camera, I hit my head really hard on the hatch latch, and that's probably a good thing because it knocked some sense in me. I was about to start hooking up hoses when I realized I don't have the pump mount welded down yet. So I'm going to go ahead and tack that into place, get that over with, and then I can start hooking up hoses. So I already have the welder set, just kind of generally laying it in place. So just a couple of tacks. Like I said, this isn't really load bearing, so hopefully I don't punch through it because this stuff is paper thin. Okay, so the pump has been mounted nice and secure. I used the bracket that I tack welded into place. This is a 3-inch coupler that I cut up, and then just a hose clamp or worm clamp, depending on what you call it. This connection runs to the intercooler, which is the line you just saw me run. Then obviously this is the feed. This pump itself is the CX Racing pump. I would not recommend it. I bought it based off of the stats that they had listed on their website, which was like 9,400 RPM. I think it spins, brushless motor, 8 gallons a minute was the volume rating. From what everyone says, 4 gallons a minute is enough to get the job done. So at 8 gallons a minute, it should be good. So even if it only flows half of what it's rated to, I should still be safe. It's not so much the quality I don't like. The size scares me. It's really tiny. I mean, you can only see it's about 4 fingers wide. And then, you know, the motor is this part. This is the pump. It's just the fact that it's plastic and really tiny makes me nervous for its longevity. So we'll just keep an eye on it. When it takes a dump, it takes a dump, and then I'm going to buy a Bosch pump, which is what I should have done in the first place, but they didn't take returns, so I said screw it, I'll just run it. That's one of the reasons I made the mount the way I did, because I knew I could just pop the Bosch pump right in its place and have no issues. So that's where we're at for the pump. I just need to ground it out somewhere, possibly right here with just a screw, or I'll come back, more than likely I'll come back to a bolt that's just out of camera range. That way it goes straight to the chassis and not this thin metal. And then the power wire, which I did leave extra slack. I didn't quite make it long enough because I was thinking I would just run it straight, which I might still do. I could still run it straight like this. You know, cut back this tape and then have it run right up with the water line, or I might come all the way around the back and then have the power wire go straight back with the ground. That way I can put them in a little loom or something. So undecided on that. That's not that big of a deal. Either way it'll work. So let me go get that other water line hooked up, and then I'll also, let me find, I need a wrench. Oh no, I don't, I left it loose. So this is where the drain ball valve is going to be. When I'm on the street, it's not that big. Where the hell did I do with that ball valve? On the street, it's not that big of an issue. You're not going to be constantly draining fluid. But when you go to the track and you dump ice in it, a ton of ice is going to melt during a pass. You want to put more ice in it. Wow, what did I do with that thing? I'm going to have to look for it. I don't know. But anyways, you're going to have to drain a bunch of ice out of it. Oh, here it is. Just a standard ball valve. I'll put a hose clamp on it. Picked this up at Home Depot. I modified the ends so that this hose could fit over it because it's a PVC valve. I think the valve was $3 or $2.50, and then these ends were like 25 cents a piece. And I just attached it, put it together with a little bit of glue. I didn't want to buy a bunch of PVC cement, so I just used epoxy since I had it laying around. But anyways, back to the track. At the track, you make it pass, your ice melts. You got to get some of that water out of there so that you can put more ice in it for the next pass. And obviously, I don't want to have just water dumping into the back of my car. So I need a way to route it efficiently out of the car, and that's what that ball valve will do. A couple of hoses, and I'll just run it out over by the gas tank. That way I turn the ball valve, some of the water will drain out, close the ball valve, dump more ice in it, and I'm ready to go for another pass. Alright, this fitting has not yet been attached with the, well, I need to put some of this on it. Here we go, because I don't want to have any water leaks. Oops. Let's go ahead and get that taken care of. The little plumber's tape. Those of you who don't plumb, I'll seal it up. Most of the intercooler stuff is coming from Home Depot. That's where these fittings came from, only a couple bucks a piece. I looked online, you can get brass ones, but they're like $10 a piece for a 90-degree bend. I'm like, I'm not paying $10 for two of these things, or it was 10 a piece, so it would have been $20. I'm like, that's a waste of $20. So I went with plastic. Again, it's not under any type of load, so why would it need to be brass? I'm gonna grab a hose clamp real quick. Where's the camera? Gotten to the point where I'm storing random things in this car while it's not driving, so it's kind of a mess in here. Yeah, those plastic fittings are plenty strong, so I'm not being gentle with them, that's for sure. I'm gonna redo some of this wiring to hide it. Well, not really hide it, just to make it look a little cleaner. This wire should have been longer, and so should have this. These two wires should have been in this big bundle, which I will redo. That way it just looks like there's one wire dangling down. This big, one set rather than one here, one there, one there. So that'll just make it look a little cleaner. All right. That can go there. Probably make one of my attachment points. Well, I'm probably gonna need to get, well, I can zip tie that. One of the attachment points, I think I'm gonna make it right here. Well, I can actually probably go forward a little bit with that because I have 3 sets, so right here would probably be good. That'd be 1. Second set right about where my hand is now, and then the third one would be back here, probably right around where that hump is. So yeah, let's figure out where I put those, and then I'll get this attached before I make the final cut on that last line, because the 2 lines are going to diverge when it gets back there. Because remember that this is the return line, it has to go to the top port of the water tank. Alright, so here's the clamps that I bought at Lowe's. They came in a pair, and they cost $1.20, something like that, for the pair. So figured it's not going to get much cheaper than that. We'll just wrap this around here, and I'm thinking right about there is a good place. So we'll get this guy wrapped around here. Ooh. The rubber's falling off. Let's fix that. There'll be more than sufficient to hold this hose in place. So I'm excited about that. And it's going to look pretty clean. We'll do something like that. I like the way that looks. So let me get a self-tapping screw. Whoops. Might actually be easier just to drill the hole first, then line everything up. Okay, step one, got that. Now I'll line all this stuff up. Oops. Maybe. Now the rubber's sliding off this one. There we go. And now this one's doing it. Wow. Kind of annoying. There we go. There we go. That's not going anywhere. Nice and solid. Looks good. I mean, it kind of looks like I knew what I was doing. I don't, just for the record. Okay, well, now I'm going to do 2 more sets since that's what I bought. Like I said, a little over $1 for each of these packets, so I'm probably going to be about $4 into the whole thing. I can always go back and get more if I decide I need more mounting locations, but I think this will be sufficient. So let me get these other ones in, and then we'll get that last little bit of hose in the back hooked up, and then we can put water in it. So here is the final product. I decided that, I guess it's not the final product, but I'm going to put another clamp right here just to hold it down flat. I'll have to get another set since I'd only bought the 3. But as you can see, the 3 that I do have installed came out very well. This right here is my ball valve. It's in the closed position, so anytime I need to drain water out, I'll just rotate it 90 degrees. I am missing a hose clamp. Apparently I either lost it or I didn't buy enough, but that's okay. I don't really need that hose there to hold water. I just need it to drain water, and then it's going to run out an opening over on that side. It obviously would have been faster just to, or shorter distance to drain over here, but these hoses don't make hard 180 degree turns, so that wasn't an option. So at this point, the last 2 things I can do, that's probably bright, I need to wire up the pump, and then I have to fill it with water and see if it leaks. I don't think it's going to leak, so I guess I can actually put water in it first. I don't need to wire the pump. So let me go fill a few jugs of water and we'll start pouring water into it. Alright, here goes gallon number 1. Well, didn't make it very far. 1 gallon in and it's already leaking. So I'm gonna have to take advantage of my nifty ball valve here, drain out that 1 gallon of water and fix that leak. Okay, so I think I got the leak taken care of. I've now got 2 gallons roughly, 2 gallons of water in it. I'm going to turn the pump on, which is just Mickey Mouse as far as the wiring is concerned, and we'll see how that goes. I guess it would help if I turn the kill switch back on. Well, there we go. That actually worked out really well. It's pumping. I'm not sure how good this camera's picking up, but that ripped out when I was screwing with the hoses. I'm gonna need a better bolt to put that down. And like I said, I'll run another set of clamps further up the line here to hold it, but it's pumping good. Let's see if we can You know, looks like a garden hose worth of water coming through there, so that's pretty decent. Good amount of flow. Pump's been running for a few seconds and hasn't burst into flame. That's a good sign. So not too bad. I'm pretty happy with it. I'm already getting text messages from my wife who's upstairs saying we need to go start packing. So this is where I'm gonna end the video now. I did find another hose clamp, so I will be able to attach this hose to that ball valve. And then I'll actually do some decent wiring off camera. Like I said, this is gonna be the end of the video here. I'll run another set of clamps right there. And then after that, we're good to go. My buddy Ryan should be coming over to help me finish up the underside of the car. We will get the rear end back in, bleed the brakes, and top off the fluids, and then it'll be time for a drive. So we're getting real close here. I think I mentioned earlier in the video, today is Wednesday. By next week, Friday, I would like to have this car on the road. So there's not a lot of things to do, it's just the things that need to be done are time consuming. So hope you enjoyed this video. Please like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you next week for the next video.